Hey, welcome to the next installment of the GatorEX podcast. I'm back. We're back. I'm joined with a buddy, Bait, once again.
How's it going?
Thank you again for being here. Thanks for joining.
Sorry I wasn't here last month to bother you.
No problem. Honestly, I might not have done something last month. This is last month. Thank you for bearing with us. But yeah, and welcome our friend who might be a more permanent addition as I'm building up my team here, which is mostly just me. But I know some other people who might be joining and helping out in other projects on the channel. But that we'll get to that when we do. But for now, there's not really a whole lot going on with Pokemon at the moment. I think I've said once or twice here and there that I predict there might be a Pokemon Direct in June, but we really have no idea. For now, though, I've been catching up with anime.
Anime is fun. It keeps you distracted until the next time Pokemon comes up or anything else goes on.
So this season, honestly, I'm getting a bit more into it. I think last season I didn't have a whole lot going on. I'll say at least now that in my current routine, my current list of anime I'm watching, I am going through the current Pokemon anime, Pokemon Horizons. I should have asked before. Have you seen anything of it?
I have seen some of it, but I've not something that I try to catch up with or try to keep invested in. It's good, but I mostly just watch it in bundles of episodes at a time. Mm. And then I'll stop, watch other animes, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, no, I was watching this, and then I'll go back to it.
Okay, but Horizons, the current thing.
Oh, no, current Horizons?
Yeah.
I think I've barely started that. I was just thinking of the other Pokemon times when I was that was originally how I started. I watched it, obviously, when it was on the air, and then eventually, once they put it onto streaming, I would watch groups of episodes at a time, and then stop, and then go back to it. Horizons, I've started. I think I'm on episode 2 right now.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Sweet. What do you think? Because, all right, I'll say this. I think episode 1 and 2 are... Okay, so I've retroactively tried to go back a bit more through the previous Pokemon anime, and some of them have really, really good intro episodes. Basically, the first 2 episodes are the way to start it off. The first series, I think, has a great first 2 episodes. I think X and Y before that had a really, really good first 2 episodes, to start everything off. Mm-hmm. And Horizons is one that I thought also stood out in terms of hey, here are the first 2 episodes, here's the beginning of things, here's where things are going to go. So what do you think?
I think it's pretty good. What do you think is more necessary for the first 2 episodes?
I mean, at the very least, if you can be something pretty big and monumental to kind of get you excited, because it's hey, here are the high points that we can reach right now when we're starting. These are about the peaks that you can expect when we get to say, the end of season 1 or the next big climax or whatever. Because again, XY, like I said, the first 2 episodes are relatively simple, but there's a lot going on and some good action. I don't know how much of X and Y you've watched.
I saw it a while ago, but I can't remember much of it.
Okay. And the end of that one, the very end of XY, the big climax story, that's insane. It's amazing. And if you ever get a chance, I'll say this, if you ever get a chance to okay, I want to sit down, I want to watch an entire Pokemon series, watch XY. XY is just the really good one.
XY is the starter to get someone invested in the rest of it.
Yeah, honestly. You can start at any point, but Diamond and Pearl is really good too. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to say XY because it's it's the newest. Well, honestly, Diamond and Pearl XY, it's between those two. Those two are the best individual ones of Pokemon. So it's but I would personally would recommend it because I think it has a fun first 2 episodes.
All right.
But yeah, on Horizons, I think that it has that in its first 2 episodes of how, it gets things started or it gives you the setting. But even then it also establishes, hey, yeah, we started off in Kanto, but we ain't staying here. We're going, here.
We're actually going to explore. We are not simply just going to say, okay, we're going to start walking down the path. We are going to take a boat. We are going to take a plane. We are going to move.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, the airship too. Yeah, and as I've been continuing it, I really do appreciate okay, so you've been introduced to the crew on the airship?
Yes.
Okay. Then honestly, I love them. As I've been watching through Horizons, I don't know how far I'm caught up with it, but I know at the very least, all the episodes that are available on Netflix right now, I've watched all of those. And I think right now on Netflix, US Netflix, you can watch up to episode 24. I've definitely watched that far. I think honestly I'm at 30 something right now. But yeah, just going through that, the adult characters in there, I really appreciate just having them there. They're not necessarily the main ones because you still got your 2 kids, Liko, and actually the first, in the very beginning is just Liko. Yeah. I don't think you get to Roy until episode 3.
I haven't.
Yeah. But it's you have your kid characters, but Freed, the older guy, right? Or not older, but the the professor with
Yes.
the Charizard. One of my favorite characters. I think if you happen to like keep watching a bit more Horizons, then yeah, should check him out. I'll send you like one individual episode of like, this is like one of the ones you need to watch.
All right.
With him.
I think what helps with having adults is because we've had kids for so long, but every time we do, they're still all like, they either already know their stuff, they already like are experts and whatever, but you're also like, these are kid characters. Yeah. How do you know already this much if like Pokemon is, I guess, would be a kid show that we still watch.
It is.
So I feel like having a kid character works in the, we're still trying to figure things out, which is why Ash worked up like, go to a new region. Here is a new Pokemon. Here is a new thing. But then usually there'd always be someone next to him who's like, what are you talking about? Of course this Pokemon is a flying type that's weak to this. Of course this is how this environment works. But then you're like, you're literally the same age. You probably know as much math as I do, which is like basic geometry. Yeah. Having an adult works in like, one, you have an actual authority there. You have someone who's more experienced. You have someone who could actually handle a situation, but then emotionally just be like, yeah, no, let me actually teach you how things are going to go, or like just help you out. That way it's not just kids fumbling around. This is a world where people grow up and live and work. And so obviously now having someone who has lived and worked and knows how any of these work, helping out is going to be like actually useful.
No, Ash definitely had to fumble through everything, which, it was fun to watch still. It was like that setting, that series. But like, I really, really realized this. Like, oh yeah, original series at least. You have Ash, who's like 10, Misty, who's, about 10, 11-ish maybe, and then Brock is apparently 15.
But Brock and Misty were both gym leaders, so they already had more experience. Brock was essentially taking care of his entire family, so he knows how to survive out in the wilderness, and knows enough about, like, terrain and everything to, like, keep them going. Misty was versatile with water Pokemon, trying to figure out how to, like, move or just deal with economy stuff. Ash was the only one who didn't know anything, had to learn everything. But that was kind of a good journey. But it was still, I'm walking with two experts, even though they're both close in age to me. An actual adult who's there like, yeah, no, I could just help you out whenever you need to.
Yeah. Freed is just straight up a professor. And like, that ends up being like most of the main thing of like, you'll check in with like the adult characters here and there, but most of the time it's like, oh, we're going on an adventure. Okay, Liko, Roy, and Freed. The man who's got his doctorate in, whatever Pokemon. But I really appreciate it. And yeah, it's a good series so far. I think that
this isn't the first time we've had a professor be part of the main group, has it?
Yeah.
Like, actually, like, I'm going to go with you guys on something, not just, I will either happen to be in town when you come by doing a thing on my own and I catch up with you, or I'm just gonna not be here and then you could call me, or like, I'll come over in case you really need me.
Yeah, no, yeah, this is legitimately like, hey kids, let me handle this, don't get in trouble. But then the kids end up, with Freed too, he's not like, again, you've probably seen it, he's a lot more like, I would kind of describe him a little bit like Ash. He's still, an adult and very grown up, but like he still has kind of that like little adventurous spirit to him, and that like kind of not absent-mindedness, but like he definitely forgets things a lot. That's like one of his little quirks of like, oh, I guess I forgot to tell you that, huh? He's obviously adventuring, but like he knows a lot too. He's got a Charizard, and the Charizard is just really, big and powerful. And then his Pikachu is just like, insane in battling.
Would you say he would just be, this is literally a protagonist in the retirement years?
Exactly. I think I would say exactly that.
I've lived my journey. I've gone to where I want to. I now have the job I want with the friends I want. And now seeing a bunch of kids doing what I was doing, I may as well help them out. See what I can do.
And at least with them, there's kind of like a little thing of like, I guess just briefly about the backstories. Like Freed was friends with the protagonist's mother. And the mother said something like, hey, can you watch over her? Can you like protect her for a bit right now? And he's like, yeah, no problem. So he's I guess kind of a bit of a like uncle vibes. It just works really well. I would honestly like really recommend like if you're gonna like continue checking out more of Horizons, like 100%, check it out. It's again, we gotta finish more of it, but I would really put it up there in terms of like Pokemon series. Like you need to watch it. Then that's the thing is like there are so many of the series of like, hey, you should check out this one and this one is like there are just so many. I think they're all good and fine, and I like them all to different degrees. Black and White, which generally people don't like Black and White. I think it has one of the best season finales of any Pokemon
of Black and White. I don't even remember. I was not a fan of Black and White. That's the thing. Like I was watching it, but I don't think I ever got to the end because watching Black and White was already a while after it had already ended and gone into every other season. So eventually I just said, okay, you know what? I could just skip this. Again, since we're still following Ash, I can probably already know we're not going to get far. If we did, I would have heard about it. So let me just move on to the next checkpoint. Let me see where we're going in the next region, because I don't really want to keep doing this anymore.
At the very least, with Black and White, don't watch season 3. Don't.
I feel like the fact you have to say that makes me go,
Don't even. Season 1 and 2 is great. Season 3, not so much. But I think that, season 1, honestly, the last final arc of that is great. I'll tell you a bit about it. Obviously, Ash, Silent, and Iris are, traveling, so on and so on. They've had their little run-ins with Team Rocket. But what I like, too, is that, like, for the most part in season 1, Team Rocket just does not interact with them most episodes. They're doing their own thing. They're, like, working on their own little plot. And so in the last few episodes of the first season, Meowth just meets up with the main characters. They're like, oh, shoot, it's Meowth. He's like, don't bother, kids, or whatever. I've been let go of Team Rocket or something like that.
Yeah.
And so he travels with them for a bit to get to the next city. And then when they finally get to the next city, and I like to, there's like a few episodes too, where they kind of actually bond with Meowth a bit. And it's kind of cute. And especially too, there's a little dynamic of Ash has his Pikachu on his shoulder. Iris has Axew hanging out in her hair. So then Silent gets to basically hang out with Meowth. Or at least, he's kind of close with them. Once they finally get, to the city that they're going to, Meowth kind of sneaks off, and it turns out he was, tricking them so he could get inside the Pokemon Center and then let Jesse and James in. And then there's a whole train heist where they steal all the Pokemon in the Pokemon Center. And it's a great train chase also. And it ends on a train chase. I'm like, legitimately, the last little arc of season 1, I think, is peak of Black and White. So I highly recommend it to anyone.
Especially now that you spoiled the
train. It's been what? I don't want to. I'm gonna.
It's
been
say 10 years.
No, it's been more than 10 years. It's been like 13. What would you say? I guess Pokemon anime, at least while we're still on that.
I think my issue has been I've been with long running series, but usually they change a lot of dynamics. And Pokemon, I don't think we'll go that far because, again, like I said, I kind of already knew where every season is going to go. We will have ups and downs. We may face new legendaries, new issues. But up until the point we finally changed main characters from Ash, I kind of was always, I'll watch it if I can just because of the nostalgia of what I liked early on. Mm-hmm. But I kind of already know where it's going. It's a continual seasonal weekly show where some of it will be good, some of it will be great, but it's also a lot of it will just be the same, and I kind of want more from my other shows. Because usually in other animes, live action shows, there will at least be change in dynamics. And yes, Pokemon gives us change in sceneries, change in how the Pokemon interact, but it is still kind of more of the same, of nothing will really raise higher until a season finale or until we get a movie. Other than that, I know it won't be that high. We'll still have the same cast, we'll still have the same everything until we finally move to a new region where we get a new cast. I'd rather just change everything overall. Again, like the hit anime that's been going on for the past 12 years, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Oh, no.
I'm not gonna stop. I'm trying to convince everyone I can to give it a shot.
Okay. I'll say this. So obviously, Bait, he likes JoJo. It's cool. And a handful of our other friends in our friend group have seen some of JoJo and whatever.
Almost everyone has dropped it because they can handle the quality.
Yeah, it's permutated into me. I've still never seen an episode at all. Never seen any episode of any of the parts, but I still know so much through memes and through whatever you happen to say or this and that. It's like, I know generally, I get it. I know what's going on. I've still never seen an episode.
And that's fine. But I think not even just like the whole of JoJo. I think I just like how it does actually change. Again, main point is just you follow the Joestar bloodline, and each time you get an entirely different setting. You start off in the 1800s in England, and then you cut to close to 40 years later, and then you move over to America, and then you go on that traveling adventure. Another 40 years. Now you're in Japan crossing the world. 10 years later, you stick to one single town. You stay in that one town. You went on a whole globe-trotting adventure last time. Now you're in one town.
That's my favorite, even though I've never seen any of it.
You cut to next season, which is only 3 years later. Now you're going across an entire country of Italy. Then you cut to 3 years later. Now you're in prison for almost the entire time. Then you cut to the next one. You're 200 years in the past.
But that hasn't been animated yet.
No, the 200 years in the past, part 7.
One? 7?
Yeah, 7 hasn't been animated.
Yeah,
the one where they're in prison has been animated.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, but it will be animated because that is literally what everyone considers the greatest manga of the century that has completed. Everyone recommends it.
Would you say I could just let's say part 7 comes out next week. Could I just jump in and watch it without
It is a kind of pseudo reboot. They reintroduce a lot of the concepts. Again, since every cast is new, this one is completely new. This one is completely like a one-to-one. This, you could just read this on its own and you're fine. When it first released, it was not even a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It just released as Steel Ball Run. Mm-hmm. And everyone was like, okay, we know the author. He finished JoJo. He moved from regular Jump into New Ultra Jump, which is a more older teen manga.
Okay.
So, like, he literally went from, if JoJo was, okay, it's going to be regular shonen, now it's now into Ultra, so now there was still blood, but now we can go into more harsher effects, more harsher subjects. And he just made a new manga called Steel Ball Run. And people were like, okay, he did a lot of good for JoJo, he's still continuing on, let's keep reading it. And it's only like several chapters into it, is it revealed, actually, no, this is straight up JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 7, Steel Ball Run.
I'm stealing that idea. I'm gonna do with. Oh no, I can't say anything. I haven't told any of the viewers about my secret projects.
I could spoil that right now.
No, stop! Don't spoil it.
But that's why it's fun because for the first 3 parts, even though they do make references and mentions to the previous parts, or like what you may find out later comes in later, it is an all new cast. So you'll say like, this is my ancestor, but then you find their descendant who acts completely different to them entirely, with an entirely different power set.
I would say that, honestly, I would actually say that Pokemon is pretty much, like, similar-ish. It's still, like, it's not, like, as time jumpy. Yeah. It's a lot more condensed, because it's like, Ash is 10 years old throughout the entire thing.
I think that may be it, because while Ash is still the same, it works because since every new region, it reintroduces how Pokemon works and reteaches you. It does work as a primer. Every first episode works as like, here's the world, here's how things are going to start working. Yeah. Ash is the only constant most of the time, but because he either keeps the new cast and they are still surprised at where they are, or he gets an entirely new set of friends to go along the journey. And again, it does work as if you watch any one of these, you essentially get the same experience of like starting off new, fresh. The only constant is him and Pikachu. But I think that's my problem because then you're wondering, if I'm barely starting in, I know Ash has been there for over 10 years since my older brother or my older sister or my mom and dad watched Pokemon and he's still here. This kid should already know better. This kid should already be the top tier of anything. And yet he's still kind of the same. So that has always kind of held me back of like, okay, we are getting new settings, we are getting new things, but because we're following the same kid, I feel like he should already kind of be more experienced with everything. Because Team Rocket still hasn't managed to properly hold on to Pikachu for more than 5 minutes. That tells me, all right, they're not really going to get him this time, are they?
I think it's like somewhat fine. It's the main thing is that like as long as there's some like character progression. Obviously, in the very first series, there's a lot of like development for Ash throughout the whole thing. And the funny thing is that like by the time you get to the the Indigo League in the original series, he still hasn't really completely matured. Not matured, but completely developed as a character, right? In the first 2 episodes alone, there's a nice little arc of him like going in and thinking like, hey, everything is going to be absolutely perfect. I'm going to go in. I'm going to be the champion. I'm going to be like the greatest Pokemon trainer ever. And then immediately he's like, shoot, he oversleeps because he was like a little too in his head. He was too much thinking about, the future. And he's not, I don't want to say dealt a bad hand right away, but it's like, oh shoot, all the starter Pokemon are gone. Have this Pikachu. And he's like, okay, great. Yeah, I can I can get my journey. And the Pikachu doesn't want to be his friend. And so there's a whole lot more of like, he learns much, like, again, in this, just the first 2 episodes, he goes through this little arc of like, oh shoot, it's not all about me. And
I have to put in the effort to realize like nothing is just going to be handed to me.
Yeah.
I'm not Gary. I'm not him. Yeah. Literally the meme. I'm not that guy.
Yeah. He puts in the work. And I like too is that like, he's very, very determined. There's no moment where not necessarily a moment, but like where he stops and he's like, in the first episode where he's like, oh man, maybe I can't do it. He's like, no, Pikachu, you're coming with me. Let me get on the gloves, get the rope. We're going. And then when they run into trouble.
Pokemon are not only animals, they are their own beings. I can't just pick one up and expect him to attack for me. I have to get him on my side and actually make friends with him and I have to show him that I'm a good person and let him decide in my best interest and in the interest of Ash, I should probably attack right now.
Yeah. And too, like, that's the whole point where, like, with the beautiful scene with all the Spearow about to attack him, you gotta go through me if you want to hurt this Pikachu. And so that's where he kind of goes to that little thing of, like, yeah, it's not all about me. I gotta put in the work. Let me kind of, not sacrifice myself, but let me protect Pikachu right now.
He was sacrificing himself. What are you talking about?
Well, yeah, you're right. He could have died from that. And then that's where they kind of really start to build the friendship. And then going into episode 2 also, it kind of continues of like, yeah, because Pikachu's hurt, and then he does all he can to bring bring Pikachu to the Pokemon Center, and he kind of feels bad too. There's some nice development in that. And then throughout the rest of the series, you kind of get some of that.
But it's in bits and pieces because of how long it is.
Yes.
It's just continuing on and on.
Yeah.
And again, if you were to introduce any newcomer who knew absolutely nothing about Pokemon and threw them at any one of the series, like all the way, like the entirety of the Black and White Guard or NT, or the entirety of X and Y or anything, they would be fine. They would have a good time. I could honestly say you throw them at any point, they will be fine. Because again, since Ash is just the main character, you're just like, oh, he's already the main. He has some experience, but he's starting off new, builds up a new team from ground up, only has a Pikachu, gets either friends that say they've been with him, in which case, okay, I'm watching the show, I can see why they're friends, or gets a new cast, which you can say, okay, now I can see how they will become friends. Gets new teachers, gets new learnings, figures out the region, figures out everything, you're good. It's only after you've been with Pokemon for this long, at least for me, that I'm stuck with, okay, I've been here this long. I feel like there should have been a lot more development. I feel like there should have been a lot more going on, and yet we're still kind of here. Other kind of shows kind of get away with it because they either ended it like a couple years in, or have like are big enough to get a movie every once in a while, in which case you're like, yeah, I can see why development hasn't changed because we only get one movie every 5 years. So then the development is like either, okay, movie 1 could take place a week before movie 2, but at least they're at that little time with how long it takes for them to make these. But with Pokemon being for so long, for all these years, with just one protagonist, your mind is telling you, connecting the dots and saying, this doesn't really be catching on. This doesn't really be, what are we doing here?
At least with Pokemon, they kind of do a thing of like say with X and Y. Because, Ash does have his moments in there too, of, his own little development. But the advantage too is that, like, you also have these other new characters you have Serena and Clement, who go through their own little arcs throughout it. So you have this, that's kind of like the mentality of like switching out the side characters every so often. But it is really interesting that, like, they decided, hey, you know what? We're going to wrap it up. Ash becomes a world champion. We're going to give him a cute little send-off. And now, new series, new protagonist, no references so far. So far to what I've watched of Horizons, no reference to anything in the past, aside from, like, there are Pokemon there. No mention of Team Rocket. There's a new villainous team in Horizons.
Did I already see them in the first 2 episodes?
Yeah, I guess so. Or you saw, like, the Emethio guy, right?
Yeah.
The funny thing is, he's, like, one of the lowest pawns in the whole thing. They're like even more, and they all I like them all. So it is interesting to see like that, and I guess like you say, let's say Yu-Gi-Oh, right?
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh has honestly been airing forever.
Since like around the same time as Pokemon.
Yeah, it's still going. Yu-Gi-Oh's still going.
Yeah.
They just change out the protagonist every 3 years or so, and mix things up and do kind of a whole thing of like completely different universe or so on.
Either a different way they play the game or a completely different way the game. Like one is literally we summon up what would be the underworld or what would be Shadow Realm, and then the next one is okay, we're still kind of there, except we're going into more we go to GX and then it's like, okay, we're going more mystical, we're going more alien because we acknowledge that dinosaurs can be brought to the modern day, aliens are real, magic is also possibly real with vampires and Amazon pumas and everything. And then we go to 5Ds. We're still in the same, but now it is, okay, we fully go into mystical dragons that can choose 5 chosen ones from every generation to come out forward. I think GX is obviously like direct sequel series to original. I think 5Ds is meant to be like a pseudo parallel.
On the same timeline? Or
same timeline, but with slightly different like ways of the rules working.
Okay, but it's more like in the future.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Farther into the future. We're already going into post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, that's true. And then post-Zexal, it's all like
technology,
completely brand new different thing.
We get invaded by parallel universe aliens and other people,
but like they each contain of like Zexal, Arc 5, Vrains are like each their own separate thing.
Yeah. I guess you could say they like make very slight differences in like how they work, but that's what I'm saying. Like that's why you get different rules, different ways they play, different antagonists who I guess work better because again in Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 1 it was okay because these are all ancient Egyptian like shadow sorcery, which is how we get most of the like antagonists. Who we had Merrick, who I'm being possessed by my alter counterpart demon. We have Bakura, who is I am literally the devil. I am Zork. I am here to mess with you. But then we had also Atlantis was real. Don't forget that Atlantis is real, and they also had their own separate demons that came from space that can come by to attack you. But also, we also have a guy who hacks into the system to make your cards have OP effects. Or he has OP effects. He makes everyone else weaker by him. But don't worry, they're still on the same threat level somehow. And then you cut to a couple years later. Oh, aliens are just straight up real. By the way, alien bacteria that can affect cards, and then they come in and pretend to be a kid's imaginary friend. That's real. Also vampires. Vampires have been here the entire time. We just don't talk about them.
And dueling monkeys.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, at least when you go to like each different section and they bring in like a new element to it, you could say it's not coinciding with everything. Pokemon is Pokemon. It's all in the same world.
Yeah.
Even if we get rid of the age thing, we're to assume that everything that happens to Ash is at least viable and real to everything else.
Yeah.
And then we have to bring into that question.
It is something too, because like, anytime like I look at the anime, like the Pokemon anime, I'm like, how do we rationalize this or this and that? I'm like, you kind of can't, because it's like, yeah, remember this is the universe where Santa Claus exists. This is the one where aliens are real. This is the one where ghosts are real too, like actual human ghosts.
Not like a Pokemon that takes a human form. It is like and a ghost. Which Pokédex entry is real? The one that says this one is a ghost because it was a legit Pokemon who died, or is this one a ghost just because that's its biology?
Yeah, and I was that's just the anime. Horizons, though, I'm like, they don't say any. I mean, there's no reason to say that like it doesn't exist in the same universe as the as like the stuff with Ash.
Yeah,
because. Why would they like come out and say like, oh yeah, totally separate universe? It's like, no, everything else legitimately works the same way. Mm-hmm. Especially with the settings too, is they go to some of the same places that Ash went to and they're exactly the same. So that one is like, I think still though, the fact that they're just like completely focusing on this and that. I remember when like Horizons was first coming out, there was a lot of conspiracy theories of like the main protagonist, Liko. Yeah, she's Ash's daughter. Not true. You meet her father. Later on, he's
you
not
Ash. You made a dad in Pokemon? That's shocking. That hasn't happened in decades.
They exist. It's interesting, and I kind of wonder if, like, when since it's done, relatively recently wrapped up season 1, and it's on to season 2. I feel like it's probably going to go for like 3 seasons, like basically every Pokemon series. So I wonder if like when this is done, if they're going to be like, if they're going to keep Liko around as like a main character and
like make her the new mainstay.
Yeah, like going into Generation 10, it's like, hey, Generation 10 is out. Here's a new games. Here's a new anime. Liko is, doing this. I kind of doubt that though, because already like, I'll say this in Horizons, it's already like a world hopping. Like they already go here and there and everywhere. Though there is a bit more of a focus on something sometimes. They spend a decent amount of the early episodes in Galar because we kind of missed out on the Sword and Shield anime because it didn't happen. And then currently, now starting in season 2, they're just in Paldea for Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was a whole thing with Terapagos, the legendary Pokemon from Scarlet and Violet. So I feel like because in the concept, it's like, yeah, they have the airship. They can go anywhere they want. I feel like it's like, okay, where exactly do you go from here if you did a season 2? It's like, oh, hey, we're going to another region, a brand new region, whatever region Generation 10 is going to take place in. Like, hey, yeah, we had the airship the whole time, but we're going to go to this one specifically just because right now. So I feel like we're just going to, once we have like the 3 seasons of this, once we move on to next generation, maybe we just do another new protagonist.
I feel like that would work because obviously finishing with Ash was a decision. They had to say, okay, we could either renew Pokemon with Ash and keep on going for another one, figure out another way, another league for him to fight, or we could end it and finally give him an ending and everyone else cheers. Mm-hmm. So that was his decision. And then this is also the other decisions. This was like, okay, what do we do? Do we bring Ash back? So I feel like that by that, they're going to look at it, since again, you say they're probably going to do 3 seasons, which is how much everyone has had. So probably by the end of this, or at least even right now, they're looking at the data and seeing how reactive people are. They're going to listen to this podcast. They're going to listen to they're going to listen to other people. They will hire translators and other people who will come back and say, okay, the roads are in. People actually like Liko. People actually like everything we've done so far. But now people are saying, we like this change. We like the differences. So maybe they're come back to the decision of, okay, they liked it when we changed it. So as much as we want to give Liko a second season, maybe it'd actually be beneficial to follow what people have been saying for a couple years. Maybe we should actually switch out our protagonist, switch out our story.
That's actually a crazy way of looking at it though, huh?
Like,
yeah, if this anime series is performing well, like ratings and viewings, you're right. That could, they could take that to mean like, oh, they like this character, or oh, they like this change, or they'll trust us when we try something different.
Normally that doesn't work because say if you made a movie And then, like, say you make this really big Jurassic Park movie. And you say, okay, you know what? Here's what people liked. Here's what they didn't like. What we're writing a sequel. The issue is that you're already writing, once you're done and you already say like, okay, this is the moneymaker, we're making another one. You're already sitting down and writing that second one. And you could look at the data all you want, but by that point, you've already kind of drafted out your script. You've already got your casting director to say, here's what we're going to do. You've already pitched a story ideas. You've already thought of a setting and everything. So while you could put in some of that data into whatever you're writing, you're adding it into what you already had, which may or may not be what people said they wanted or not. You're just trying to figure out a way. And if you did try to rewrite it to accommodate all of that, you may not get the best ideas, as we have seen.
Mm-hmm.
However, this is a show that by this point, they've already become masters of the craft. They've been doing it for more than 20 years. So they've already got their animation. They've already got their teams. They've already got their voice actors. They've got their writers. And like you say, we're probably going to get another 2 seasons of this. 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
But that's more than enough time for the original current team to say, we're going to finish this right now. We're going to write season 2. We're probably already producing it. But now we can say, all right, here's season 3. It's blank. Using all our feedback, we can either sit down, write season 3 as we normally would, like we did previous Pokemon, and then build up until a next region, or figure out a really nice, quiet way to end season 3, and then when we get to the next part, we just make a new protagonist. We have that time because even though we probably do this within a year of putting it together, it's not a really big production where like whatever we do is set in stone. Now we have the flexibility of we can actually start changing it. We can actually alter or move on or go backwards, however we feel like.
That's really curious. I wonder exactly what they're gonna end up doing with that.
If I had my way, we'd be in one town. Well, hear me out. For a lot of Pokemon players, as much as the shows and the games is us moving up about the entire region, a lot of us are homebodies. Like either we stay within our neighborhood or we just go around whatever town we live in. We play Pokemon and watch anime so we can get the outside world and perspectives and like see things we've never seen before. But in reality, unless we go on a vacation, a lot of us just kind of stay in our towns. We go to work, we go home, we go to the stores. So in Pokemon, they have traveling, they have movement, have the entire setting be in one single town, but like have it be one of those with like one of the weird Pokemon towns where like you'll have an airport that like does a lot of transporting, but then right next to it is just like actual casual houses. Have the main character live there, and all the new stuff he sees is the Pokemon and goods and adventurers who go over. Like, I don't know, have his parents run a hotel. And so he or she just gets to like see all the newcomers who are like, oh, actually, I'm on my way to Galar, but we had to make this quick stop here. And then like, what's that Pokemon? This is actually a Luxray. They can be found over in the Sinnoh region. And then, get a really quick tidbit, see what a Luxray can do. And then by the next episode, they're gone. And it's like, let me put that in my sketchbook of all the Pokemon that I see. Whoa, that was an electric type? How did you know? I could tell because of all the yellow. Yeah, this is actually a Mareep. Like, yeah, I could tell because of the coloration and how careful you are with it. Yeah, she can get a bit, like, stingy, but, she's usually nice to people. Here, if you want to pet her, you can. And then, boom. So every new episode could be a new Pokemon. We could get a new one. If you want to have, like, but we want to have battles. Well, guess what? Some of them could be champions from previous generations. Some of them could be, you want to have a callback? There you go. Oh, I'm actually on vacation. What's your name? I'm actually Misty. Boom. Just her on vacation. If you want to do older Misty, you can do that. You want to have her be the same to imply like it's still within the same setting or like the same time frame? You can, and there'd be no problem with it. Because again, that way, think about it. You can have 3 seasons of him living in town. You get to know his shopkeeper, know the person who makes his food, figure out his parents, know what Pokemon are in his area. He gets to live vicariously through all the people who come in. By the end of the series, you know what, Mom, Dad? I saved up enough working over the summer. I think I'd like to go to Galar. And then, boom. Do that after 3 seasons to show that he has growth, or do it at the end of season 2, and then the entirety of season 3 is him having his own little adventure in another region. He gets his first Pokemon, or have whatever Pokemon he picked up from home, gets one of them, and then imply that he's going on. You want to make an entire series of him going on a new adventure? You can, or he takes the trip, thinks it's cool, wonders if he should go back home. Series end, we follow an entirely new protagonist, but now you as the viewer got to experience what you experience now. You live at home, you find out the people you hang out with, you make your friends, you make your rivals.
That idea actually kind of slaps, though. I'm gonna steal that.
You can, but I would at least like a mention. Do not pay me. I would at least like, if you are going to use this, I would...
Credit to the author.
If you want to credit me in the corner of your book, like literally on page 300, just literally write me at like the top left center of the where the page directly meets the spine, so that way if once you open it you don't even see it. At least I'm there.
Once it gets bound, it's gone.
I don't care. Like I'm never noticed as long as I'm technically there.
Credit to the original author.
As long as I am technically there, I will be happy.
You recently you got like the Teal Mask DLC?
Yes, I did. I actually bought that.
Yeah, you haven't played it though, huh?
I have not. I brought it with me to like ask you about it, but I have not actually opened the package.
Sure. I'll say this though. That one, it is basically one town. And it kind of has me thinking about that. Like, they could have done a lot more with it, but for the most part, it's like, it's still like an open world setting, but it's like a pretty small, it's like a mini region. Mm-hmm. And there's like one town in the middle and a bunch of like wilderness and wild stuff and landmarks and whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. And of course, you as the protagonist, you come in and you become the main character. It really has me thinking like, you know what? I would and could take a whole game that is kind of in that setting. I know we were talking about the anime, but like even a game in that kind of setting, that series. And, it kind of has me thinking of like Yokai Watch. I've never played it, but
I have. It was all right. I wasn't a fan of the combat.
Oh, yeah. But like it is basically that, right? You're just in one little town.
You're just in one little town dealing with problems that arise from the other yokai that come up.
Yeah. And that game, like, just not destroyed Pokemon, but like it basically said like, hey, punk, check out what we can do.
Back in ye old days, that would have been considered the Pokemon killer.
Mm-hmm. All right, it's everyone's fault for comparing it to Pokemon immediately. But I will say that like post Yokai, it's kind of insane when you look at it, how much Yokai Watch changed the way that Pokemon and Digimon approach things, like immediately after it, because of its success. Because it's like, oh shoot, we need to take notes from this. But like, it kind of gets me thinking, like, with the Teal Mask DLC. And with Yokai Watch, I honestly will go back and I'll play Yokai Watch sometime. But with that fact, it makes me realize, like, yeah, you could just have, like, this whole monster collecting adventure in one town.
A lot of people think, oh, we have over 1,000 Pokemon in the roster. You need to see them all. And it's like, we did grow up playing with just 150. There's nothing to say we can't have that again. Like, oh, where do all the electric Pokemon live? Just put them all in one area, man. Just have them in workstations.
Actually,
you want to see a Magnemite? You can go to the power station, but at the same time, you'd think they're also in an office building as like a backup generator. Maybe they're at home because someone just really likes a Magnemite. If you don't collect it, at least you've seen it, so you know it exists. Game Freak,
go ahead, make a mini Pokemon game. Obviously now they're cutting the Pokédex in like half or so. Like in most Pokemon games, there's like 400 at most.
At most 400 because 400. Again, putting 1,000 in there at the start is going to be too much.
400 and change. All right. Let's say, take this. A smaller game. Quicker, $40, 200 Pokemon in the Pokedex. Mm-hmm. Mix things up. One city, one setting. Like, brief story. And again, that's the important thing. $40 instead of the $60. Boom. That's it. Do that. Do that if you like absolutely need to like put out if you need like absolutely like, oh shoot, we need a game this year. Go ahead. I'll play it. I think people might enjoy it, maybe.
It would be a bit harder because then you're like, okay, we have so much we could put in. What do we do? And then that maybe take time. But at the same time, if you're costing at $40, that's already 20 below what people would normally buy for a Switch game. And in this economy, that is at least 30 to 40 below what people are paying for Xbox and PlayStation games. So it's a lot more affordable, especially to kids who are like, oh, I'm trying to budget whatever I can buy. Like 60 is the limit of, do I really want to spend that much or do I just go to the bargain bin?
True.
With a smaller roster and a smaller setting, it is an actual like bite size. So it is no longer that this is a game that's going to eat up hundreds of your hours. It is this is something that you can play on your own. This is legitimately something you could catch. And with competitive people trying to figure out how to turn a fun, tiny game into a competitive experience would be also its own kind of fun.
Honestly, too, Legends Arceus, how that one was like very much like, this is a self-contained experience. You can, keep playing and going, but it's like, oh, we took out all the competitive battling kind of stuff. You really can't I mean, I would have liked if you could battle against people, but it's like, this is a single-player story. This is a single-player thing. We're remixing, all the other... There's like maybe, 10 brand new Pokemon. All honesty, you could do that. And say in this like extra little game of like, the only new Pokemon you need, hey, add 3 new starters, 2 new legendaries, maybe 3 new legendaries. Well, 3 like evolutions of the starters. And it's like, okay, that's it. Remix, just take like some of the best hits of like various Pokemon from across the series.
Pokemon Snap sold well, didn't it?
I don't know. I hope it did. I honestly really like the spin-offs that we got on the Switch so far. It's so weird. The spin-offs do not sell as well as you think they would.
Really?
For Pokemon. Yeah. For quote, the biggest franchise in the world, they really don't. Like, every main series game nowadays hits 10 million units easy. Like, no question. 10 million. The newest games, like, heck, they can 20 million even now. Like, 10 million at the minimum normally. The spin-off games, I think they are lucky to hit 1.
I haven't heard nothing about Detective Pikachu 2.
I gotta look it up. I bought it recently. I honestly really like it from what I played. I'll play through the rest of it, but like, yeah, I would not doubt that game is like far from 1 million. I hope that doesn't like discourage them from like saying, hey, Detective Pikachu, it's made by Creatures, which Creatures is like one of the companies that owns basically like 1/3 of Pokemon.
Yeah.
So if their game doesn't sell, where they're like, oh, haha, oops, we're still making bank from the TCG because we run that. We're still, making all this money from whatever. Or like, we still own the dang thing, so I don't even know if I would say it's a loss. I'm like 500,000 is still a lot.
But in this market,
I'm not saying it sold 500,000. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. But let's say 500,000. That is still a lot of money. Like if you're selling that.
Yeah. And that's at least the numbers we can get over here in the States.
Yeah.
We don't know how it could be for the rest of the world.
I kind of want to look it up now, but I don't want to take the time to go away. Especially because we've been here for a while, so should at least move on to a question or two. So this question comes from Cheeseburger Lasers, who says, if you had to buff normal and bug types, how would you do so without adding new Pokemon or moves?
Buff as in make them good, or buff as in make them into like one of the stronger types?
One or the other. Because, okay, bug is not the worst type, but kind of.
It has too many weaknesses and not enough strengths.
Yeah. I would say, just shift up some of the weaknesses. Because, that's something they can do. Like, going from generation to generation, they literally hey, we're going to delete this move. This move is not in the new game. Hey, we're going to add a brand new type.
It says we can't add a move, but there's nothing that could eliminate moves. Just eliminate every move.
Well, okay, what other type could you could, honestly just, remove, resistance? Because the big infamous thing is, I think, I forget what generation they did it in, but in one generation, they're like, oh, hey, steel is no longer resisting dark. Mm-hmm. It does neutral damage. Point is that, yeah, they've done that before. So I think that might just be the thing of, I don't know what resist bug right now, but, I think you could honestly just, get rid of a resistance from bug and, give bug one more extra resistance to kind of make up for whatever weaknesses it has. Because, the thing is, I don't think you want to, maybe we shouldn't add a resistance to bug. Scizor is just already, hypothetically a really, really good Pokemon. Mm-hmm. The one downside it has is that it's weak, 4 times weak to fire. And I think that works perfectly as, a counterbalancing thing, because it's
a single flame burst will end this thing's existence.
Yeah. So I think maybe that's kind of the way to go. I don't know what I would say. I think that...
all I can think of is how to make things either competitive or not. For normal moves, again, it depends on, are you doing PvE or PvP? If you was a normal, if this is just me going on an adventure, these would not be so much an issue. They'd be okay, this is not really the best types, but it's more okay, this is kind of what I want. I like this bug type Pokemon, and I'll figure out a way to work around its disadvantages. I just want it to have fun. I think this little scrunkly guy looks cute. Look at my Heracross. Look at him. He is adorable. But then if you go into competitive, then you're okay, well, yeah, then there's no reason for me to ever bring a bug type, because no matter what type is secondary to them, or even if I bring bug by itself, I'm still facing a lot of weaknesses and not that many strengths for me to get for it. So if we was going for regular PvE, bug, I feel is fine. It's the second you get to PvE, and that's where I feel if you're not going to be able to figure out a way to balance out what it could be strong against or what it could be weak against, maybe give it a more critical thing. For normal, in the same vein, doesn't really add much to it. Weak to fighting, does nothing to Ghost, but at least is immune to Ghost. But then other than that, there's no real big normal size move that I can think of other than, or Frustration and Return.
They got rid of those too.
Oh, they did?
They're not in the current gen.
Oh, damn.
Yep.
I guess because you'd have to start using the statistic of how much does this Pokemon like or dislike you.
I will say though, they did add a really good normal Pokemon in Gen 9. And I don't want to say that it's adding new Pokemon is the solution, because it kind of does go against it. But I will say that Blood Moon Ursaluna is just really good, and its signature move is a normal type move. The big thing is that like it can hit ghost types.
Yeah.
So that's it. The thing is, like, I feel like sometimes it's kind of nice though, because like if you look at competitive Pokemon right now, grass type. It's like, oh, grass, oh, wimpy, weak. Right now, grass is the most represented type in competitive Pokemon.
Really?
Yeah, like the top it mostly just means that like out of the top I don't know, I think 10 most used Pokemon, like 3 of them are grass type, which is a lot. And so I think sometimes it just does come down to like just make the Pokemon good and people will use it.
Because the only type of bugs you'll ever actually see are either the wimpy ones that you find at the start of every adventure, or some mid-tier one that you find halfway through that you yourself make good by giving it a good moveset, but nothing so much that you'll see at the end. You'll see the cool 3-headed dragon at Victory Road, and you'll hardly ever see, this is my aunt. I think that was only in black and white with Durant.
My aunt? Oh, Volcarona.
No, because do you find Volcarona at that Victory Road?
Yeah, Elder has, well, not find it at Victory Road, but like the champion has it.
Well, yeah, because that's a super rare legendary. You can never find this at your local pet shop.
Yeah, you got to go into the Relic Castle to find it.
Exactly, so it's like, you're not going to find this, like, just zooming around. You'll find a flying type, you'll find a normal type, you won't hardly ever find a bug type.
I think, honestly, though, maybe what could be cool, too, is, like, what if you just do individual stat buffs to certain bug Pokemon? Without having to do an evolution. Just mix things up. I think that, like, maybe it's not necessarily something that we should, like, oh, let's focus on the type as a whole. Let's focus on the Pokemon as individuals. Let's add, let's say, oh, Bug is now super effective on this extra type, and Bug no longer has a resistance to this. Does that help Ariados? I love Ariados. What's that gonna do? Give Ariados, like, focus on that one. Give it some extra stat points in this thing or that thing, or, let's mix things up. Those are at least my thoughts. For
normal, if you really wanted to, like, try affecting it, have it be the joke of One Punch Man. Like, here's my super serious normal punch. It wipes someone out of existence. If normal is going to be considered, this is a type compared to fire, poison, steel, and the embodiment of darkness, have normal be the most OP thing ever. Like, it literally is the strongest by just being normal. Like, if you're mean to tell me that Lopunny just does a normal tackle to a Dialga and still does reasonable damage, that implies that, like, yes, that Lopunny's normal punch is strong. And every other normal type, not being affected by anything else, should also be that strong if they're competing with, like, other predators and other animals. So just say, like, every normal type gets a small boost to their attack power. And just, like, have that be like, yeah, no, literally, if you're strong enough to be on the chart, you kind of deserve it to be there.
It would be funny, though. What if we just make Psychic weak to normal?
How does that work?
Because, well, I guess Psychic is super
beats fighting beats normal, and then normal just, and it's...
beats Psychic, because, like, hang on, what is my reasoning? I just thought it'd be funny. No, but we already have that with Dark.
I feel like that works at making the pseudo other triangle, because the idea is that, like, you fight against your fear, you fight against the darkness, which is why it's that dark thoughts and dark minds can cloud over your mind and brain over brawn. So therefore, have it be the joke of obviously being the super strong one beats up all the regular normies. Being mentally superior is what fights fighting. But then just being a normal guy is what befuddles those who think they're smarter than you. How many movies and shows where you have the ultimate big bad mastermind who puts all these plans in motion, and they're just literally beat by some farm boy with a stick who's like, I just heard you were being mean to people. I don't much like that. I'm here to stop you.
Star Wars.jpg.
Exactly. Decades of planning beaten by some farm boy who hung out with a Muppet in the swamp. And he's just like, human kindness. Who would have thought that'd be enough to turn my own bodyguard and enforcer against me?
Here's another fun one. Running short on the time, and Taijirai dropped a bunch of questions, which I screenshotted these, so I'm going to save these. I hope you do not mind. Let's answer this one. I did send you all the questions, huh?
Yes, you did.
This one I think is fun. If you could create your ideal Pokemon rival, from their backstory to their team to their dynamic with you, what would this person be like? And are they a legend or a loser? Are you enemies to lovers or frenemies forever?
You should not ask me this because I've been thinking on this for the past 10 years. I want them to be evil. I want them to be my rival. I want to be evil and for them to be the good guy. My shtick is I want them to be an actual opposition to us in every way, shape, or form. A lot of people had the same mindset. They go in nowadays with, oh, of course Hop is supposed to be like hanging out with you. How? Doesn't really care about fighting. He's all right. Look at Barry. Barry's an energetic kid who just wants to try beating you at like every small little contest. Wally's just a little guy. It's his birthday and he's just a little guy and he wants to take his Gallade with him to the champion. Why would you deny this little guy this? I'm like, no, none of that. We have enough friends. Look at X and Y. We had too many friends. Let us have someone to actually feel competitive to. The entire time of the journey, we are constantly like being helped out. We are either stuck in a spot, in which case we meet the local gym leader who says, oh, that's a harsh pickle. Here's a TM or an HM. Here's how you can get to me. I'm rooting for you, pal. I'll meet you at the gym. You run into any of the professors. Hey, here, let me give you a boost. Let me help you out in this one area where you might need information. Here's an egg. Here's a way to get through this area. I'll meet you when you have something to report back to me. Every single Poke Center is there, ready and waiting for you to come by saying, it's okay, champ. If you got hurt, we'll patch you up and send you back on your way. Every NPC who's not the main antagonist is solely there to help you out. And that's nice. That's great. I love the idea of people are just like really nice to each other. But I also want some actual obstacles. I want there to be an actual feeling like I want to circumvent this. A lot of people have the mindset of I want to become the champion so I can be the champion. I work on spite. I want to wake up and have my rival be throwing rocks at my door. One of them breaks through. It turns out it's a brick and he's like, you'll never catch me. And then he runs off to the next 2 towns over.
So like evil or just an ass?
Pokemon will never do evil unless we are going to send them into the hell dimension. So I'd rather just an ass.
It depends on like who you count as a rival. You can honestly count N as a rival. And so he goes from like, yes, I'm with the evil team. He
will tell you he's part of the evil team. He will say, I fully believe in Team Plasma's official statement of free the Pokemon, humanity should not do it. But every time he talks to you, it is always, you're one of the good ones. You believe in the friendship of Pokemon, and I can hear how much they respect you. I disagree on our beliefs, but just know that at least in your endeavors, I hope we can still keep seeing each other as friends. I was like, no, I'm supposed to be everything you despise. I'm convincing these Pokemon that battling for me is a good thing. I'm teaching these animals that fighting and becoming stronger for my benefit is the good thing. You should be hating me because I'm everything you stand against. You should be picking up soda cans and throwing them at the back of my head.
All right, I get you. So like just more kind of I guess, some more in line with Blue?
With early Blue and Silver before he actually got the Crobat. Before Silver was, I need strong Pokemon because strong Pokemon are all that matter. They are what beat challenges. And to a degree, that is true. We could become friendly and get our Baniris to Lopunnies, get our Crobats on our own. But the thing is, a lot of it is just, I had a bigger number than you.
Mm-hmm. Would you give the rival like an arc?
No.
Like what, you beat him, final battle, he's like, oh, I guess I lost, and nothing really from there?
Yes, because while Silver was good, he wasn't really good, he was just like that obstacle because he constantly like one-up you by always being ahead of you. Mm-hmm. Eventually he got that arc and then he started understanding you. That's when he eventually started going against Team Rocket to like aid you. And then the next time he fights you, it was good because he eventually was like, okay, I realized Pokemon are sentient creatures too, and I need to become better as a person. But then that means he's essentially gone from the story. He's not really that relevant anymore. He's not an obstacle. He just fights you for the sake of fighting you. If you keep your rival as like an ass, at least then he'll always like try to be there to one-up you. Calum or Serena, when you play X and Y, are still also trying to beat you because like, I want kind of an expansion on that. They are the cream of the crop. My mom and dad are Pokemon trainers or gym leaders. They did everything right. They taught me everything I know, and I picked one of the better starters who beat you. And I'm trying my best. And you're literally just the kid who moved in, got the leftover Pokemon, and yet somehow you're the one who's actually completing the Pokedex, getting favor from the professor. And literally, it's just, my mom was the local Rhyhorn racer. And suddenly you're now going to the Elite Four right behind the prodigal son or daughter. I feel like I want that, but for them to go, no, that's not how that works. I had the training. I had the years of experience. You are looking for Doug Trios in their own holes.
So Hop, but he snaps.
He fully snaps. Again, my brother is the local champion. He taught me everything I know. I want to become him. I want to become the next legend. I want my name in the spotlights. I want fans. I want the fame. I want everything my brother has. Leon to go, that's not what being a champion is all about. But it's a good perk, isn't it? See, that's what I want. And you, the kid who just moved in, getting all of that just by being yourself is like, no, that's not how that works. I'm going to keep fighting you.
All right. I get you.
Have him pick up one of the legendary golden cats. And it's like, yes, I did it. I got the legendary golden cat. I'm the next chosen one. And then you pick up the next one like 5 minutes later. No, there's only one chosen one. Only one of us gets to be the golden cat owner. And it's going to be me.
The golden cat.
I mean, we've already had the elemental dogs. We've already had the wishful birds and dragons.
True, let's do that. So, it is also still kind of funny, like, again, we said, like, yeah, you haven't played Teal Mask yet. So I'm curious of, like, your thoughts on, like, when you actually get through that. Not like, saying anything about, like, but I like what they did with the rivals in that one. You probably won't like them because you don't like anything, but...
I despise everything.
Yeah,
but that's how...
But I mean, I'm still curious of, like, it's something different that they do, which I do appreciate that, like, they try out some new different things, or like, mix things up, or just kind of like play on some concepts. Obviously it's Pokemon, so by the end of it everyone's going to be friends, obviously, because that's just how it is. But like I like Teal Mask Indigo Disc.
Yeah, if you go back to Blue, after he loses, he doesn't get... Think about it. He doesn't get the arc. He gets the arc in
the sequels.
In the sequel in Silver and Gold. But that is, okay, I was champion for 5 minutes and then I lost. I got humbled. So now I'm trying my best. But in regular Red and Blue, and then eventually in the remakes, it is straight up, he thinks he's better than you. He's constantly beating you at every gym, at every town. Is honestly shocked that you made it all the way to the Elite Four and is challenging him. And then when you beat him, it is legitimately, no, that's not how that works. I was here. I beat you here. I did all of this already. How did you beat me? Has to be told, bro, you gotta work on your attitude. And then just storms off, and then you never see him again. So no character.
So you want rival with no character development?
If you want to have him, like, start a new life.
Or a negative arc. That's what it's called, a negative arc, where you, like you said, with, say, Calum, or Hot Buddy Snaps. It would still be an arc, but like a negative arc.
If you want to show them, like, down the line, eventually having a good, like, getting married, having kids, living the best life, having their partner till the end of their days. I want that, but I also want them to have a small picture of us in their wallet that every day they just hold up and say, I beat you. Look at my family. I love them so much. I beat you. I want them to carry that spite for the rest of their days. And have the perfect life, the perfect marriage, the perfect everything they could ever want. But the one thing they didn't will be the one thing that haunts them. And that'll be us.
All right.
What about you?
I can get behind that. So you ever hear of tomboys?
Oh, dear.
No. Dang it. I was like, I could make 2 jokes with this to lead this off. Here's the other one. If you want to know my idea for rival, stick around and read my web novel when it drops.
In the next 5 years.
Sometime this year. Hey. Sometime this year. No spoilers, no nothing. But in all honesty, it's like, I think that we've kind of just had, not enough, but like I kind of think like we've had some of everything. What I really, really would like, though, is like a character who kind of sticks around with you a little more. I do kind of like that idea of maybe a negative arc, or maybe not necessarily like a negative arc, but like, on one hand, I like Volo. I like what they did with I wouldn't call Volo a rival, but I like the idea of him sticking around, of him popping in, like being here and there. You kind of think that he's meant to be, the helping character. And then by the end, it's like, oh, this is why he was doing that. He didn't necessarily change his character, but it's just you learn more about him and you realize like, oh, why his character was like this. I don't necessarily want like a full villain betrayal at the very end. But I think that's something along those lines. Honestly, heck, sure, let's do that. Let's say part of the villain team. I also kind of like the concept of, say, in the Delta episode, right? We learn that Zinnia is like, oh, she was part of like Team Aqua, Team Magma, or for a bit, and then she starts doing her own thing. But like, hey, what if you just do that? What if like again, the part of her being part of like Team Aqua, Team Magma doesn't matter like much in the story, but it matters more so like, hey, what if by the end your rival just is like, maybe not like the final boss, but like maybe more of a Colress kind of role, and then still have like the big battle against like the villain. Maybe not necessarily like villain, but more so of like the antagonist of like, hey, listen, we're trying to do this because we think this is right, when it's not right. That's kind of my concept. But obviously, it would still be obviously,
N, but actually stick with the morals.
Yes.
Because N works because he is trying to like do the whole like reasons why Pokemon need to separate from them. But the issue is because Team Plasma are literally everything against his ideals, but he never notices it, so he's constantly being lied to about it. It kind of is like, okay, we literally just saw them beating up Pokemon in the fields, but because you never saw it, you're fine with it. So we think you're a hypocrite. As the audience, we think you're aware of this, but you're ignoring it to spread the message. Have Getsus do his big reveal of like, aha, I never planned to release Pokemon. I actually want to use it to control it. Then have N literally come out, punch him out, beat his team, and become the main villain of like, see, all humanity does is try to use Pokemon to their own advantage, lying to themselves, lying to me, the king of Pokemon. I'm going to now force my Zekrom or Reshiram and this new really cool ice Pokemon to now force everyone to let go of their Pokemon, destroy their Pokeballs. And you, as a Pokemon trainer who has made friends with your Pokemon, are like, no, I don't want that. And then you fight.
I wouldn't do that. I would have them be the second in command. And then by the end of it, they're like, oh, maybe I was wrong. Can we be friends again? And then also make her like a cool rough and tumble tomboy. And yeah, she has one of the starter Pokemon that she keeps, but she also has like the first form of the pseudo-legendary of the region. Which is not a dragon type, because let's get some non-dragon pseudo-legendary Pokemon.
But everybody loves dragons. That's why they're so marketable.
Well, yeah. But then let's do it. Let's have 2 pseudo-legendaries in this game, and you can catch the dragon. And then she'll have the other one.
No, surprise twist. We do a Diamond and Pearl. There are no dragon types in this region. The only have the main 3 starters all be part dragon, and have the only other dragons be the legendary dragon. And there is literally no other dragon type in the entire game. You start with dragons. You raise your dragon to fight the enemy, to fight the final boss dragon, and then that lets you bring all the dragons back to the region. That
would be incredibly based. By the way, I keep saying it, but keep an eye out for when my web novel drops. Keep an eye out. I told myself May, but May is upon us. Let's say July. First chapter. I'm getting close. I'm getting close enough to the point where it's almost time to start talking about it.
No, we say finally. We say it's happening now.
At last! What a day! What a wonderful day!
You haven't seen the movie, have you?
No. I'm gonna see it Thursday with Dad.
It was pretty alright, actually.
So, I think that, thank you for your questions. Again, that was from Cheeseburger Lasers and Taijirai. If you're a channel member, you can drop a question in the comments below. We'll check those out. Again, Taijirai did leave a bunch of other questions, so thank you very much. And I think we're going to pull from those in some future stuff and more to talk about. Especially, because we've been here for a while. But thank you again so much for your support. You guys are making this happen.
Thank you for having me and for dealing with me and my horrible ideas.
No. You were kind of cooking. You're kind of cooking. I honestly, the whole like, oh, Pokemon anime, but it's just in one little town, one setting. Like, actually, that could work for something. So anyway, any other closing thoughts?
Not so much. Thank you all for listening to me spout what I think is insightful, but may actually be hurtful.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next month as well. Well, actually, probably later this month because I'm a little behind. But thank you so much for your understanding. Anyway, this has been GatorEX. Catch y'all later.
Later.